here's another babysitting horror story, and how my babysitter almost killed me and my baby sister. So it first started when my parents hired a babysitter for us. At first she was really sweet, and then she started being really mean out of nowhere. She started hitting us when we would cry, and she would blow cigarette smoke in our face. One time when she was driving us home from the grocery store, my baby sister was crying really hard the whole entire car ride. When we got home, she got me out of the car and brought in the groceries, but she left my 2-year-old sister in the car. It was 103 degrees. And she left her in there. That's honestly when I first started becoming scared of her. But why I became terrified of her is because one time my parents went on vacation for like a week. And one night my babysitter ordered pizza. My parents sent the babysitter the money for it. It was for all of us, but she wanted to get anchovies on the pizza. I told her I didn't really want that, but she ordered it anyway. When the pizza came, I didn't really want to eat it. Instead of her being like, well, I'll just make you something else, she locked me into a room for 3 days. She would only let me out to use the bathroom, but I wasn't allowed to eat anything. After that, she made starving us a regular thing. Then my parents came back and took us to the hospital for a checkup, like for part 2. This is part 2 of my babysitting horror story. So like I said, my parents came back from vacation and took us to the hospital for a checkup. They took us to the hospital because they noticed we were getting really skinny. When we got to the hospital, the doctor said my 2-year-old baby sister only weighed 19 to 20 pounds. And I was 13 at the time, I only weighed 90 pounds. The look on my mom and dad's face was enough. So when we got back into the car, I finally told them about what the babysitter had been doing. Now hold on tight, because the way my mama reacted to this, you would have thought somebody possessed her. Immediately, my mom started going off on my dad, like yelling and screaming at him. And he just had his hands in his face. I was so confused as to what was going on. See, I didn't know my dad when I was younger. He passed away before I was born. And so I found out that my current dad at the time wasn't my real dad. And I didn't know the truth until this whole babysitting situation. She babysat me for like a month and then my parents fired her. I'm 23 now. I honestly could have forgotten all about her. Well, just last year, my mom told me that babysitter was my dad's ex-wife. Well, anyways, this is what my mom did to my stepdad's ex-wife after we went to the hospital. This is part 3 of my babysitting horror story. So like I said, I finally told my parents about what the babysitter had been doing to me and my baby sister. I was so confused as to why my mom started going off on my dad right away after I told her. But 10 years later, I'm finally finding out that my babysitter was my stepdad's ex-wife. My mom told me that she had been really iffy about letting my stepdad's ex-wife babysit me and my little sister, but she only agreed with it to save money. So my mom told my dad to get out of the driver's seat. She got into the driver's seat and she started driving. I wasn't exactly sure where we were going and my dad didn't know either, but we ended up at the babysitter's house. Luckily for her, she wasn't home because my mom would have dropped her. Shit, she might have even got a murder charge that day. But my mom told me to get a rock and to just start chucking them at her windows. So that's what I did. There, me and my mom were chucking rocks at my babysitter's window. And my dad was watching us holding my baby sister. My mom didn't take her to court or anything. I'm not exactly sure why. Probably something to do with my dad. But my mom and my dad cut contact with her completely and they fired her.
They were standing by the mirrors and I didn't even look at them. I just walked straight about me in the bathroom while I was in the stall. So these 2 girls, I guess you can consider them part of like the popular group in high school, and they always hated me for some reason. I never knew why. So I don't know if you guys remember that story time I was talking about, that kid that I got caught making out with in the movie theater. Well, it was around this time and it was when I was kind of talking to him. So me and him would usually text each other and be like, hey, meet me in C Hall, and then we would walk around the school and kind of skip class. And one day while we were doing that, one of the girls ended up passing us in the hallway and said hi to him. And I didn't really care because we weren't dating or anything. I was just like, ew, I hate that bitch. So me and him end up going back to class, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like going back to class, so I'm going to go to the bathroom. And in high school, we had to put our IDs on the table so that they knew who was in there. And of course, I see the 2 girls' IDs on the table, so I'm like, ugh, great. I'll just walk in and pretend like I don't even see them. So they were standing by the mirrors, and I walked straight past them right into the stall. Then one of the girls was like, oh my gosh, she's such a hoe. What's her name again? And then the other girl said my name.
This is part 2 of catching 2 girls talking shit about me in the bathroom while I was in the stall. So I was in the stall and I'm pretty sure that I didn't even have to pee. I was just in there on my phone because I wanted to miss more class. So one of the girls ends up saying, oh yeah, she hooked up with A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and they're all friends. They all know each other. And not only did she hook up with every single one of them in that friend group, she also gave 2 boys head at the same exact time behind a dumpster. And I'm sitting in the stall like, damn, like, who did that? That's, like, fucking nasty. And then the other girl was like, wait, what's her name again? And the girl was like, yeah, it's Mia Frankel. And I was like, oh. And I don't know to this day if that girl made those rumors or if she heard them from somebody else. I'm not sure. I mean, this girl in particular, she always, like, had something out for me. I don't know why. But that is besides the point. So I started shaking and I was like getting really bad anxiety because I was like, what the fuck am I about to say to these girls? So I walk out.
This is part 3 of catching 2 girls talking shit about me in the bathroom while I was in the stall. And before you guys roast me on what I said to them, just keep in mind that I was 14 and I had never gotten into any confrontation with anybody before. So, like, basically I was a pussy. So I walked out of the stall and the only thing that I could think to do was just stand there in front of them and look at them and then, like, just be like, ugh, and then walk out. And I regretted doing that immediately after, because when they looked at me, they did not expect to see me. Like, they were like, oh shit. And I should have snapped on them. Like, I wish I had the willpower to be like, bitch, what you say? Like, I didn't hook up with A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. I hooked up with fucking Z. But no, you know. And then the second I walked out of the bathroom, all I heard was them fucking hysterically laughing. They're like, oh my God, ha ha. And then I went to guidance and I just started crying.